Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to the support vessel that has undergone a lot of changes off camera since the previous episode. We left off when we were just starting to convert the Atlas into the hull of the vehicle you see in front of you, but now it is almost fully complete. About 10 minutes worth of work is needed just to pretty up some things, make some things work a little bit better, and then it is ready to enter the campaign and try to help out the fireworks in every way it can. So the major things with this build, which are different from previously, is that it now has a functional fuel refinery found inside of the hull. This thing will explode like a glorious firework if the back of the hull is ever completely destroyed. So if it's going to die, it's going to make a spectacle for all to enjoy as it descends into the depths. But let's hope that doesn't happen. In addition to that, I've added 2 sets of AI, one for water control, one for air control, so that we can keep up with the pyrotechnic kind of look we're going for at the moment, with the jet spewing out of the side of the vehicle and the back. This also means it actually gets up to a reasonable 25 meters per second, which isn't too bad for such a small vehicle. And finally, we have added a series of storage containers in the middle, which I'll be moving around in a second, which means this vehicle can hold 600,000 miscellaneous resource, so all of the resources combined. So that's not bad in the slightest. I'm actually pretty happy with this vehicle. Some things, like I say, need to be finished, which we'll be doing now, but ultimately, I'm pretty darn glad with it. And we even have a little movable crane, because I thought it should have a little movable crane, because cranes are kind of cool. So, the improvements begin. I've just removed the old engine in favour of this mess. So in there is a series of very, very small engines that are identical in every way to the engines we messed around with in the previous episode, the fuel-efficient engine. Each one of these engines are only burning 1 fuel per 347 power, which is really, really good. So although it looks a bit of a mess, and I'm sure I could have put them down more efficiently, we still have spare space if we ever want to add more in the future, and ultimately that is going to do us very well, as they are always going to be at maximum stress, always at really high RPMs, which means they're going to be incredibly efficient. So this room was originally actually part of the engine room. This is how much space we've actually just saved. So this now is going to be converted into a very heavily armoured ammo room, and even our shell manufactory. Where are you here? Which of course is the ammo controller and all of this gubbins. So I'll just quickly work on that, and we shall continue. This will go in the middle, because this is actually more important than the ammo barrels. Then the ammo barrels will go in the middle with an extra 2 layers of metal on both sides. We're currently behind 3 thick metal walls, and then finally, we need to sort out just where our storage is actually going to go, as I have also removed that. There's a lot of things I do want to change with this ship before we continue with the campaign. Not exactly luxurious, but it certainly will do the job. This tiny little room here is holding a ridiculous amount of supply. 160,000 natural, 160,000 metal, 40,000 scrap, 40,000 crystal, and 100,000 oil. This room is protected by 3 thick walls on both sides, both in front and behind. It has 2 thick walls that way because of the ammunition storage, and 3 thick walls that way because of the oil refinery. On top, it has a 2 thick wall of metal, followed by several layers of wood, because we are right underneath the command bridge. That is pretty much the safest I could make our first cache of resource. So we have the engines, we have the resource. The major thing, all I need to do now is edit the turrets. Although they are powerful, they are efficient, they turn well, they do everything functionally correct. By the dark gods, those are some ugly turret caps. I am notoriously bad at sculpting turrets. Just giving you a warning, and I may simply give up because I really want to test this thing in combat. I might even be adding a few anti-missile systems in the form of missile interceptors, because they're very easy to add, and we do have space along the side here, so we might hide them underneath the crane, which should kind of give that area a bit more purpose, or perhaps even in the smokestack, because, you know, smokestacks can be weapons too. The very basic anti-missile system prototype has now been installed into the smokestack, so let's see just how well it does. Now, to be perfectly honest, I haven't added enough of it to actually be able to take out an enemy missile volley, so as long as it simply seems to be working, we will install this in various other places on the ship so that we can shoot out a whole host of missile interceptors when missiles have been detected. We just need to make sure it actually works. Say hello to the Drake. Okay, the Drake should fire its missiles any time now, and there go ours to try and intercept, and yes, perfect! All of the missiles were taken out. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So what I'm going to do now is go off and add the missile system to various parts of the ship, sort out the turrets if I have time, and then we'll be right back in the campaign to do some combat. This will join the fireworks as their support vessel, and I forgot to mention this actually does have repair tentacles hidden underneath the front of the hull, so it can heal any ship that it gets close to. The ultimate in assistance, from a stolen Atlas, and now it looks nothing like it. As soon as we began the campaign again, we were instantly under attack, this time from a foe known as Patchwork. So it turns out, the Deepwater Guard actually give you a grace period when you start a new campaign, in which they will not send difficult opponents against you, even if you have the difficulty set to maximum like I have. So that explains why we've only been fighting the very weakest of the enemies at the moment, even if we have actually seen a whole host of new ships. Like this, for instance, the Patchwork, I've never seen before, and it seems like it is literally what the name may suggest. Several of their ships have been sewn together to make a very, very odd looking thing. It even has spin blocks. That is really weird. I do love the Deepwater Guard's aesthetic, it must be said. Okay, back to building my new supply ship. The grace period appears to be over, as we are now fighting against the mighty Barracuda and its assistant, the Paddle Gun. Two fairly scary opponents, particularly in the form of the Barracuda, which is essentially the drone carrier of the Deepwater Guard fleet. So let's see just how well the retrofitted Atlas can actually deal with aircraft. Here's hoping a lot better than I'm imagining. This may end up with me losing my ships, got to be honest. Let's just let go of my weapons, there we go. Okay, if they all stick on the ship for too long, the flak cannons will actually absolutely rip them apart. A bit of a stammer there, but there we are. Yeah, the area of effectability is doing a lot of damage. The actual main ship is taking a beating from those flak cannons. One of the smaller ships is almost destroyed. If it gets out of range of the healing, it will actually go away forever. Aye, dead. The Barracuda is down. Well done, flak cannons. Well done to the little supply vessel. Or support vessel. I never know which one to call it, honestly. It's kind of both at this stage. Seems that the anti-missiles aren't really doing their job too well. They did take out a few early on, but sadly after that, pretty much nothing. Wow, those flak cannons have did so much work this battle. And sadly, I've missed most of the combat because I was focusing on, I wonder if I'm dying or not. A little bit of damage here and there from the explosions that miss. Sadly, that's kind of acting like a flying squirrel in terms of its movement, which is really setting off the cannon's aiming. One of the Firebirds did go down. One of the fireworks did go down. Oh, I keep doing that. You know, at some point, I'm just going to make the Firebird into this campaign so I can stop mixing them up. Oh, flak cannons are now reloading. That was the big con to using the belt-fed loaders. The reload stage is pretty harsh. There we go. Is that it? Is that the last one? I think that one there might be the last one. Or was it two? Was that two? Or was that just a part of it? Regardless though, that initial attack with the flak cannons was really good. The damage was a bit less than I'd hoped for, because they have nerfed advanced cannons in the dev build quite drastically. Well, not just in the dev build, but in general, since I started building the capital ship and such, because they were really overpowered. But even so, I didn't expect such a drastic change, as that is an exact copy of the flak cannons from the capital ship, so to see it doing so little damage is a little bit disheartening. Perhaps we'll have to change the flak effect for just regular explosive, which does more damage but to less of an area. Let's just repair our fireworks, and hopefully we'll find another battle soon. If not, we can consolidate our power at the new resource zone, which sadly, I didn't even realise this until just now, the resource zone is only for crystal. Which is really, really not worth it, because we now have to supply fuel, which has to be refined, to any station we put there, any platform. So is it actually worth fuel to get crystal? Because that's all it's going to be. The only reason I would actually want this is as a consolidation of power in the area, but then why don't I just build on the land for free with structures? So I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use this resource zone, as it's pretty darn terrible now. It used to be regular resource, now it's just crystal, so perhaps we'll have to push a little bit further to try and get some of their other resource zones. The last few enemies which were sent before the grace period ended are now being cleaned up. We just defeated 3 more Atlases and 2 more Casket Bolts in a very convincing victory indeed. Which of course I'm not going to complain about, because we now have a grand total of 125,000 metal collected, and we haven't even collected all of this yet. So yay for the supply ship actually having space for all of this. There we are, and let's get the last of it as well. Fantastic. Okay, back to waiting. I really want to see a coffin nail and a flying squirrel by the end of this episode. I just need to see them. Just when I thought we would never see a coffin nail, one finally appears once I started building. Yes indeed, we have a coffin nail, a flying squirrel, and a corsair. Now I'm not actually too worried about the flying squirrel, honestly. Not only do we have a flak cannon, which admittedly isn't doing as well as the older version which I have on the capital ship, so I've got to look into that a little bit off camera, but we also have missiles in the form of swarm missiles, which are purposely designed to go after very fast, very small targets, like the flying squirrel. The corsair, however, I have no idea what this is, so this is a new addition to the Deepwater Guard fleet, and I'm really keen to see just what it actually is. Oh, there we are. Let go of the weapons for once, so I can actually fire everything, and let's see what's going on. Oh, that's the corsair. I expected something bigger. Don't ask me why, but I just kind of did. So let's watch the coffin nail instead. That's the big threat. All of the cruise missiles have just hit. The swarm missile sadly falling a little bit short there from one of the earlier attacks. At least the anti-missile system there was being preoccupied with the missing swarm missiles. A lot of damage already done to the coffin nail, and it's not looking too good for it. The outside ring has already fell off. The flying squirrel has also been downed by the swarm missiles. The flak cannon isn't actually currently online by the looks of it because it was still reloading. I keep forgetting that if you use belt-fed loaders, you do have to allow them to reload after a battle, otherwise when you spawn in, you simply spawn in with no weapon online. So currently our support vessel is just probably sitting there. Oh, or maybe I've completely forgot to turn on its AI again because I turned it off while I was doing stuff. Oh, that could have maybe been the case. Whoops. So apparently it was just the two... Yeah, it was just the two fireworks which defeated all of the enemies there. Absolutely no help from the support vessel. The support vessel was offline because I was building and it was simply swimming around too much because I was allowing it to reload. Apparently I forgot about pretty much everything there. Which also explains why it sank, because it uses hydrofoils to keep afloat, which requires the thing to keep moving. Whoops-a-daisy. Either way, a very convincing victory from the upgraded fireworks, which are now in version 162. These things will never stop being tweaked and will ultimately always be my pet vehicle at this point. Well done for helping out at the end there. I bet it would have went even more smoothly if we actually had the supply vessel aiding the battle. Although admittedly that's not really its goal. Its goal is to be there and constantly support the two flyers and aid them by giving them resources like ammunition, repair materials like metal and natural resource, in addition to actually feeding them fuel constantly. Really is helping out the group, even if it was offline for the entire fight. Before we were interrupted once again by the Deepwater Guard, I was building this thing. This is the Spinning Top Fortress. Essentially, it's a very cheap, very compact fortress with a bit of silliness for good measure. This is going to be the fortress I plonk down whenever I really don't care about a resource zone, such as this one, which is only for crystal, which is kind of pointless considering the fortress back at the original resource zone now has over 50,000 crystal purely from its crystal farms. But even so, it just feels wrong leaving a resource zone unattended, and so these will be what we use from now on. Eventually, of course, we will make a true fortress, which will be for the more important resource zones. So, doing this though, I did realise a few things. First of all, the engine can be stacked on each other really easily to make a very space efficient design, with the very fuel efficient engines basically going from top to bottom to top to bottom. That actually works and I didn't realise, so hurrah for that. That means in the future, if we have a very compact area to actually build engines, we can use that type of style. In addition, I've actually came up with a rather nice idea for using this sort of exhaust style here. Perhaps making it go a bit more into the wood than having the metal one further back would actually make this thing look like a true silo, so we could have engine silos. And if we were to armour that up, perhaps make it a little bit bigger, add metal armour, add shielding, we could possibly have external shields with that type of style on battleships in the future, so that would be really, really cool. And finally, yes, this thing fires cruise missiles, which just makes me happy. These things go around about 3,500 meters away from the initial firing point and deal a lot of damage. But of course, sadly, they also have a very long reload time and cost a fortune in ammo. So are they efficient? No. Are they cool and fun to fire? Yes. So I'm still pretty happy with the spinning top regardless. And with that, I'm afraid I'm all out of time for today's recording. If you have enjoyed today's episode, then of course, likes, favourite, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. Next time, we'll hopefully be a little bit more aggressive now that we know this resource zone is pretty much worthless to us, and we're going to be experimenting with a brand new type of firework. Since they're still doing so ridiculously well, and I can see them obliterating the Onyx Watch when we eventually get to them, I think a much larger variant is in order, and since we now have the resource, I can't see any reason not to. So thank you so much for watching, have a lovely day, please do take care, and until next time, goodbye.